The moment you hatch, a very literal timer starts ticking. You have exactly 35 days to live, but you aren't going to spend those 5 weeks enjoying the sunshine. You're thrust immediately into a pitch-black meat city packed with 500,000 other ants running an absolute terrifying synchronization. Before you are even fully out of your egg, an older worker is licking you clean from head to abdomen. She has 900 other larvae to process this hour, and you have about 30 seconds to pass a chemical background check. Your body has to produce the exact scent profile of this specific colony. If the humidity in the nursery shifted your egg's chemistry just slightly, you fail. There is no second check. The exact same worker that was cleaning you will simply pick you up and carry you straight to the dead body refuse pile. You survive only by smelling mathematically correct. In this swarm, you don't have an identity. You are simply a chemical equation that either balances or gets discarded. For the first 2 weeks of your life, you are a blind, legless larva. Workers drop food into your mouth. How much food they decide to give you dictates your entire physical future. This chart shows the direct correlation between food input and physical development. A standard tiny worker ant is cheap to produce and requires very few calories. But if the colony dumps a massive mountain of food down your throat, your biology shifts. You grow into a soldier, developing jaws that can shear through a beetle shell, and a massively disproportionate head. That massive skull is an architectural tool. When enemies break into the nest, soldiers shove their giant heads perfectly into the tunnel entrances, locking themselves in place to hold the gap while workers pack mud in behind them. The queen didn't decide to make a soldier. The colony simply had a surplus of calories and a mathematical deficit in defense. You become whatever tool the supply chain requires. That day you pupate, harden, and immediately start working for 14 hours at a stretch. You walk the exact same tunnels, picking up larvae and rotating them toward heat or away from moisture, over and over again. You watch older workers walking ahead of you simply stop, misstep. No attack, no illness. Their 35-day fuel tank hits 0, and they drop dead. The ant behind her picks up the larvae she dropped without breaking stride. In an hour or two, someone will carry her corpse to the refuse pile. You keep moving until the tunnel ahead partially collapses. The main trail takes a long detour, adding 4 minutes to the trip. But you push sideways through a tiny gap in the collapsed dirt, dragging your larvae one leg at a time, and pop out on the other side. No one congratulates you. The colony doesn't reward you. Instead, your job immediately changes because you navigated that gap. You are now a forager. You are pushed out of the cramped tunnels and into the blinding heat of the surface, where a single blade of grass towers over you. Figuring out a faster route didn't earn you a break. The swarm simply recognized your spatial awareness and instantly assigned you to the most dangerous job it has out here. You weigh less than a grain of rice, tasked with dragging dead crickets through a skyscraper-sized jungle, but large animals go out of their way to avoid you. Your species produces a highly specific chemical venom that sears living tissue on contact. It is so caustic that a single fire ant mound can drive deer away from water sources and kill calves. When the ground shakes and the ceiling cracks, the alarm pheromone hits the air. Most insects scatter. Fire ants sprint directly at the destruction. You and 100 of others pour instantly out of the breach onto an anteater's snout, fighting and driving venom deep into the skin until the giant finch flinches and drags itself backward. In retreat, you pull back into the tunnel. Workers are already packing soil into the breach from the first structural crack to the final piece of mud sealing the roof. The entire engagement takes exactly 8 minutes. There is no regrouping. The foraging trail is running again like nothing happened. The sheer terrifying power of the colony is that it faces a predator the size of a building with absolute unthinking aggression. But there are threats you cannot bite. When heavy rain lasts for hours, cold water pushes up through the soil, instantly flooding the nursery and sending 50,000 workers scrambling to the surface. This schematic details the flood protocol. Bodies lock to form a raft. A dry central zone holds the queen, supported by a structural bowl of entirely submerged workers on the edge. You survive by holding tightly, trapping tiny air pockets between your interlocking bodies. The swarm floats on open water for hours. The workers on the outer layer absorb the freezing cold and repel fish strikes, so the inner layers stay safe. The swarm saves itself by using its lowest caste as literal disposable building material. The raft catches on a dry root, and the swarm immediately starts digging a new city. But pulling yourself onto the dirt, you realize your legs aren't moving right. The freezing water sapped something biological out of you that isn't coming back. 3 days later, you're carrying a larva to the new food chamber. Your middle legs slow down, your back legs drag. The larva feels incredibly heavy. You stop walking, set the larva down, and your biological engine simply shuts off. Another worker steps over you. The colony doesn't notice your absence. It only tracks the chemical density of the pheromone trails and the volume of food in storage. When the density drops by 1 ant, the math shifts, signaling the queen to produce a replacement. 15 minutes later, a worker picks up your body and carries you to the dead pile. At that exact same moment, deep in the new nursery, an egg cracks open. An older worker licks it clean, checking the scent. It smells mathematically correct. Your existence was relentlessly brutal and astonishingly short, but your insignificance as an individual is the exact mechanism that ensures the superorganism lives forever.